Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by two-time national champion and former captain of the Clarkson Golden Knights, Ella Shelton. Welcome to the podcast, Ella, and how's everything going?
Hi, and thanks so much for having me. Things are going good here in Canada. Can't complain. 2021 is not exactly how I expected coronavirus to be affecting it still, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how this virus has still been going on even after a year. Is it crazy that it's almost been a year since things were shutting down?
I know I think about where I was February and March of last year. I was playing in playoffs, and we were just flying down to Wisconsin, and then all of a sudden we got down there and they canceled the game.
Yeah, definitely. And March 12th is going to be a day that I'll never forget because I got the phone call that we were going to be going off school for 2 weeks, and then it obviously turned out to be more than 2 weeks. But,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to handle it as best I can. How have you been trying to handle the whole quarantine period? What have you been up to since you graduated college?
So once I graduated, I moved back home. So living with my family, I've been able to spend a lot of time with them. I live on a farm, so I've been able to help my dad out a lot more than I have when I was away. I also play hockey still. I'm playing out of the Toronto region right now with the PWHPA, and I'm in the national team program here in Canada for hockey, obviously. And we've been practicing together every couple days or twice a week, I guess, right now. Kind of depends on where we can get ice and whatnot and the restrictions. And we've had a few camps here and there, so that's kind of kept me busy too. And then I'm just doing some bridge programs to hopefully help with the masters in the future.
That's awesome. And yeah, were you part of that national team camp in Calgary where it was like in a bubble?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, what was that like? Because I talked to Sarah Potomac, who was part of it, and she said it was really awesome that that you guys got the chance to play hockey. However, being in the bubble environment, there was a lot of challenges you guys faced, especially since you had to stay in your own hotel rooms and you couldn't
Hmm.
really go out that much.
Yeah. Getting there, I think we were all just super excited to finally get together and play some hockey together. It's been a while since the group has been together. It's kind of funny. Sarah Potomac was actually the room next to me. So we had a connecting door and we'd like chat or whatever. And we ended up opening it here and there to kind of just poke heads and see how everybody was doing. But once we got there, I mean, we were able to practice. We had to quarantine actually for the first 5 days, but on day 3, we were able to do small group sessions. It was good to get on the ice. It was very competitive, like environment too to be in. But within that environment, it's also a super safe environment to try new things or test some waters here and there because the coaches want to see where you're at in this time. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, the Olympics are coming up next year, and you're going to be trying to make that team. Have you heard anything what the Olympics are going to look like for 2022, especially since no one knows what they're going to look like for this summer's Olympics in 2021?
Yeah. I haven't heard too much details going on about the Olympics in 2022, but right now I think our biggest focus is Worlds and getting a date set for that. I mean, we're all anxiously waiting to hear from the IIHF to see what time of the year, hopefully, that we get to go and compete against all the other countries. Fortunately enough, we're able to still practice and hopefully have a few more camps. So then, fingers crossed, we have a tournament to look forward to.
Definitely, and being in that bubble environment, and I follow some of you guys on social media, and you guys were showing off some of the scrimmages that you were doing throughout that camp. Was it odd without any fans, and did you have to adjust to that?
It was a little odd. I mean, usually you're used to looking up in the stands and seeing your mom and dad like giving you a little bit of wave, or some kids who are like super excited to watch some women's hockey, and it was a little bit different, but I would say it was pretty normal for the time because we didn't expect a big hurrah crowd. So I think going into it, we were well aware of the circumstances. So
And you were mentioning how you're part of the PWHPA. What's it like being part of that league, and what are your goals? What are your goals going to be when you're going to start playing with that league?
well, our goals of that league is to kind of just bring awareness to women's hockey and create a sustainable league that more girls in the future could join and make a living off of. Right now, we haven't been able to practice a lot together as a group, just because of restrictions and not being able to find ice time and whatnot. But fortunately, the Toronto group, there's so many other small communities who have been really willing to kind of have some ice time available for us. So I actually was just with them on Tuesday. We had a late night skate with each other, so it was good to see everybody because you hadn't seen them in a while. But it's a lot of fun. It's good to be I'm excited to be a part of a program that is really like pushing towards something that's better for women's and really making the game like known and how competitive we are, just competitive as the men.
Yeah, definitely. And who's part of that Toronto region? Because I know there's different regions. I know there's
Mhm.
Calgary, Montreal, and I think there's one in New Hampshire.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's one in Minnesota as well. But in the Toronto region, some big names. We have Natalie Spooner, Brianne Jenner, Renata Fast, Jocelyn The Rock. There's, I'm trying to think of another name that's,
Is Sarah Nurse part of that region as
oh
well?
yeah, Sarah Nurse. Yep, she's in there. She was actually just on that Sportsnet with talking about hockey, so it was pretty cool for her to do that. Trying to think of goalies. I don't think there's any goalies. Most are, yeah. No, I think those are all the big ones kind of in our area.
Yeah, no, I think Madison Field is also part of that region. I'm just trying to go through the
Yep,
top of my head, but no, that's
yep,
exciting. I'm excited for you guys to start playing again soon. I know they announced that there will be a game in Madison Square Garden that will be a televised
yeah.
on NBC for the U.S. region. So I'm really excited for that. What's your thoughts on that? And will there be any announcement for Canada in the near future?
I think they're trying to look for something for Canada. I think all the regions here are very anxious to play a game. I think we're a little envious of the girls down on the south side of the border, like getting to play games. But playing in Madison Square Garden is like unbelievable. That's amazing that we were able to get that. I think that's such a big stadium and attracts a lot of people. And this is a way to kind of promote women's hockey in a way that a lot of people can join. Hopefully, I don't know the details of crowds and stuff like that, but it's a great place to kind of be able to start.
Yeah, definitely. In Canada, there's a lot of cool stadiums they can play in, like
Mm-hmm.
Scotiabank Arena in Toronto and the Bell Center in Montreal, and that'll be cool environments if that ever happens.
Yeah, hopefully it happens. We'll see.
Now, I want to rewind the clock a little bit. I want to start talking about the beginning of your hockey career. You're from Ingersoll, Ontario. What's it like growing up there, and how did you start playing hockey?
Well, I started playing hockey. I have three brothers. Two of them are older than me, and one's younger. And I always did what my older brothers did. They put on hockey equipment. I wanted to put on hockey equipment. Same with soccer and basketball and all those other sports. But I remember actually when I first, well, my mom always tells the story when I first put on a hockey equipment. I got on the ice and I couldn't move. I didn't want to skate. I didn't want to play because it was just such bulky equipment. I didn't know how to maneuver around in it. So my parents started off by putting me in power skating. So I spent a few years there, just learning how to skate and getting my feet underneath me. And then putting on the rest of the equipment wasn't that big of a deal because I kind of figured out how to move my feet. So I was about the age of like 4 or 5 around there playing. And Ingersoll is such a small town. I grew up just playing boys hockey locally for the longest time. But back when I was younger, and I think Pee Wee or Bantam, they started putting hitting into those age groups. So my dad felt it was necessary to kind of take me out and put me in more competitive women's side of things. So I ended up playing for the London Devilettes, just 30 minutes down the road. Great organization, learned a lot, and from there I went to their junior team. And Kelly Patton, who played at UNH, she was one of my coaches when my first year juniors, and she really helped me develop as a player. Like defensively, I was able to kind of shoot the puck better, move my feet, make that next play ready, and all that whatnot. And then from there, like I didn't think too much about college uh, or going to play college. And then I had reached out to Clarkson and a few other schools, and I went on a lot of visits to Clarkson, and then kind of knew that was the place I wanted to spend the next 4 years. And not to mention, like Potsdam itself is pretty small town, so it was a very homey feel. So it wasn't that big of a change for me, I feel, except for being away from my family. But other than that, it was a good transition.
Yeah, and growing up, who was your favorite player, and what part of the game did you admire the most?
Growing up, I didn't intently watch, I guess, a lot of like NHL players, but I remember always watching my dad play growing up, going to his games and whatnot. So I think I was his biggest fan. So I would say I do a lot of what my dad says he did in his youth. But growing up too, I mean, some of the great defense now, like I watch Eric Carlson. I think he's so good on his feet and he's quick. Brett Burns has a great shot from the point, and and I think of Ben Sherratt, who's just he uses his size to his advantage a lot, and I think that's something where I also do a very good job at. So.
Yeah, do you watch defensemen like today, like Thomas Chabot and Cale Makar, who I think have very similar games as you, who are very physical but can also put the puck behind the net?
Yeah, Cale Makar really had a great start to his NHL career, and I think definitely someone to kind of learn a lot from and how his college career really impacted him and what he learned and all that stuff to take to the next level. So definitely I watch those types of people on the ice.
Now, you played for the London Junior Devilettes, like you just mentioned. What made you want to play for that organization? How did you get the opportunity to go play in the PWHL?
Um, well, I didn't know about the London Devilettes at first. And I think one of my dad's friends had mentioned that's where his daughter went up and played them. And so I just went out for a tryout and ended up doing really well there and fitting in pretty nicely. And then from there, I just kind of started to go on this uphill climb with my hockey. And then I went right to juniors from Bantam. I didn't hit that midget age group, but I was really young kind of going into the junior year, but I was really dedicated, I would say, and very like motivated to do well in the PW. And with the help of my coaches, I learned a lot. So.
Yeah, talk about your experience in the PWHL and what was your favorite memory you had there?
Was the London Devilettes, we weren't like the best, I would say, in the league, but I think my favorite moment from each year I was on the team were my teammates. Um, I got to play my second year with two of my best friends, Ainsley Harrison and Molly Crossan, and just being able to play with them and finish out our last year of the PW together was so fun. Like we had a blast, whether it was on or off the ice. We always had a good time. Didn't take anything too seriously. We worked hard. We all wanted to do well, and I mean, we all just had fun out there. So I think that was my favorite memory of being in the PW.
Yeah, and how did your experience with London help prepare you for college hockey with Clarkson?
Playing in the Devilettes, I think I was able to focus on a few points of my game that were kind of my showcase pieces. For example, like my shot or my physical play. And then Clarkson, their big thing is the defense is going to win you games. So if you play good defense, you're going to go on offense, and then from the offense, you're going to get opportunities to put the puck in the net. And I think that's something I really, really focused on, and making sure that I was going to play really good defense for them. And then in the PW, I was able to try new things and play against really good players that I played against in college, and really work towards being that top defenseman. Not that I expected it right off the hop, like to be put in that position, but I wanted to give myself the best opportunities.
Yeah, and talk about your recruiting process. What was that like for yourself, and why did you choose to go to Clarkson at the end of the day?
Um, the recruiting process was a little different than I would say from now. I didn't commit until going into my grade 12 year. I think it was the fall of my grade 11 year. It was a fun process, I would say, the recruiting process, being able to go and visit all the schools and talk with the coaches and just visit the facilities. It was a different, I didn't expect that's where I was going to head with my hockey career. And actually, when I went to Clarkson, I ended up asking Matt if I could talk to some of the players. So he let me talk to Aaron Ambrose and Renata Fast and the rest of that class. And it was a lot of fun because walked in with my notepad, and I walked in and asked a bunch of questions, and they gave me a bunch of answers. And I think doing that really made me feel at home and comfortable enough that like Matt's going to help me with anything I need, and that the players are not like going to shy away from helping each other. So I think that was a big attraction for Clarkson. And something else, they had my program. I want to go into veterinarian or physical therapy. And although like maybe their school is more based on business or engineering, but they also had those smaller programs that I could excel in. And I had a lot of great professors too. So it was good.
Were you starstruck when you first met Renata Fast? Because she's obviously one of the top players in the world, even today still.
Yeah. It's crazy when I go and like practice with her at even Jamie Lee Rattray, Ella Matucci too. They're all on the PW and the national team too. And I go there and I like talk to them, and it feels like I played with them when I went to Clarkson, or I was there when they were at Clarkson as well. I mean, that age gap may be there, but it's the same culture and the same feel from the place. But yeah, definitely starstruck meeting Renata Fast. I mean, she's an amazing person off the ice, and on the ice, she's such a good player to learn from. So
Yeah, I had her on the podcast earlier this past year, and it was crazy. I never thought she would come on, and it was it was a really cool game, the chance to meet her. And you're right, she's a
yeah.
great person off the ice and a great hockey
Oh
player
yeah.
as well.
Uh-huh.
Now, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey? Was it the mental side of the game, or was it more just the speed of the game and making quicker decisions and just the physicality going against players that were 4 years older than you were when you were starting out with Clarkson?
I would definitely say the speed of the game was a huge one. Um, People just moved the puck faster, shot the puck faster, and decisions were made so much quicker. And then I would also say the level of intensity. I would say sometimes going into college, you kind of expect it to. I was expecting it to kind of be like the PW, I guess. Um, but there, like the competition and how dedicated everybody was, it gets you a little nervous because you weren't expecting, I guess, that right away. But you learn quickly.
Definitely, and you got very lucky because you got to learn under some great defensemen in your freshman year and sophomore year. Savannah Harmon and Kaylee Mercer were two top defensemen when you started off in Clarkson. What was it like learning under those players? And just on a side note, those two players are super underrated in my opinion. I think they're really solid defensemen, and I feel like they deserve more credit than they actually get, especially in the women's hockey community.
Absolutely, I would totally agree with that. Learning from Sav, I mean, it was amazing. She's so composed on the ice and so patient that it was easy to kind of it was okay to make a mistake, knowing that she was going to be there to cover me and help me out and kind of give me some teaching points. I was also fortunate to have her as a road roommate. So being in the same room with her, you kind of gain a new friendship too, rather than just an on ice friendship. Um, but I totally agree. They're really underrated, and Sal's been able to kind of get that national experience in the U.S. program, and I think it's awesome to see her out there. I mean, she worked so hard in college and had such a great career. So I'm glad she's getting the recognition she deserves.
Yeah, definitely. In your freshman and sophomore year, you won a national championship. At what point during the regular season, during those 2 seasons, did you know your team was capable of winning those championships?
I would say for my first year, we had the drive, and we had it throughout the um, entire season. And I think our seniors did an amazing job teaching us freshmen um, kind of the way I guess the pathway to success or whatever it is. I mean, a lot of those girls had been to a Frozen Four before, right? In 2014 and 27 or 16. And although they may not have always been successful in their previous years, I think they all had the desire to do well going out of their senior years. I feel every senior should feel that they want to go out with a big bang. My sophomore year, I think our turning point, we had a game against Princeton where we didn't do too well, and at that point in the year, we were just like, we have to start hunkering down, and that was kind of the time where we did everything, all the little things, and Matt always says those little things add up to big things, and then we went to those Frozen Four games, and I mean we played 3 overtimes that season, so to get us to that point, so it was all worth it.
Yeah, and you won the ECAC hockey tournament the year before winning your freshman year. What was it like to win your first league title, and how did that help your mindset heading into the national tournament your freshman season?
I think when we got that title, I mean, we were kind of already looking to what's next, like what can we do next, or where are we heading next. Um, we were all super excited, and it was super amazing to kind of win that title, and I think it was a reminder to not be satisfied with where you're at, kind of see where you can push the limits. Um, yeah, I think that would be the best way to describe it.
And you played Cornell and then Minnesota in the tournament that year. What challenges did those teams bring, and what did you do to stop some of those challenges and win those games, especially since you play them a lot during the regular season and now you have to face them in the national tournament?
Playing Cornell, I mean, it was always a fun game because it was so intense. Cornell is such a fast team, and they play like with a lot of speed, and they have a lot of speedy, fast players on that team. Playing with against them, your tactic, I guess, going as a defense when I was going to get a puck, especially when they dumped it, you're thinking, okay, I got to beat this F1 or I got to make a quick play because they're on their high horse coming down at you. I think that our biggest thing was just being patient with the puck and being good support. If we had good support, then it was easy for us to kind of get out of our end. And then Minnesota, like same thing, fast team, but they're a little more physical, I would say. So same thing, having good support, and it was able to kind of get out of the end quicker.
Yeah, and you finally won your first national championship against Wisconsin. Talk about that game. What emotions were you feeling after winning your first national championship, especially since against a solid team like Wisconsin?
Well, we played Wisconsin earlier in the season. We didn't. It was a fun test to see because they were an amazing team. They had Sarah Nursel on that squad. Anne Renee was their goalie, and then Emily Clark as well. Three great players who I see a lot now. But going into that Frozen Four game, I remember I was more nervous for the Minnesota game. I think because we had to win that game, and although going to the finals, you're like, we have to win this game too. I think there was a level of calmness where we weren't as nervous. But playing against Wisconsin, we were thinking more, move pucks and keep shooting the puck, like just get pucks to the net because you never know what happens, right? And then I think once again, our captains that year, my freshman year, excuse me, did a really good job at making sure that we weren't getting on a too excited note. We were calm, cool, collected out there. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I remember thinking like it being so surreal winning it, like, wow, that's it. Like we're done. Like we just won it. And then it was a big celebration at the end. And it was exciting. I mean, you win tournaments, I mean, as a younger age, but when you get to college, I felt it was a whole new level of excitement for this trophy. So, and to share that with more than just your family. I mean, you're sharing it with everybody else's family, everybody else's friends, everybody else's like biggest fans, and the whole Potsdam community itself, like being able to share that with all of them too, because it's such a small community and they love Clarkson hockey. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and going against a goalie like that, how do you? What's your mindset? What's your preparation for that? Because sometimes they can just win the game on their own because they're just stopping everything, and at some point it
Yeah.
can get frustrating, and you can make those dumb penalties.
Mhm. Anne Renee, I mean, she plays always sound, and she's I mean, in my experience, she plays the puck a lot. So I mean, it was like just keep getting pucks to net and do all the little things. Get F1 on there. Like don't give them any space and time at the blue, like when they're coming down on you, like step up at the blue line. Get bumps in the corners and they were a fast team. Like they could really like dangle and move the puck. But I think for us, it was just playing sound within our systems. Like we had really solid systems. And I think a lot of that is how we capitalized on goals, whether it was a turnover or just, like I said, a random shot at the net. I think that's what we capitalized on.
Yeah, and your teams have been super successful, especially in college. What did Clarkson do to maintain that success, and what role did you play in that, especially your sophomore year where teams were gunning at you, especially since you're defending national championships? And with all the outside noise, what's like your mindset, and how do you try to focus on just the task at hand and playing this weekend series and then going on to the next one? Because I think that mentality that your team has made you very successful throughout your college hockey experience days.
I think after, like you said, going back to back, going into our sophomore year, we had this like, like people always are coming after you because you won the national championship. And if they were to beat you, like beat us as Clarkson, then that's like them winning the national championship. And that's how our strength coach kind of put an analogy towards it. And I think that's how girls like really, really wanted to focus on making sure that wasn't the case. They wanted to make sure that we weren't going to give a reason for us to be not considered part of the top teams in the league. I think again, like playing sound within our systems was a huge thing our sophomore year. And with a big addition of Jaguar, like Elizabeth Jaguar, she was able to put the puck in the net no matter how many times you asked her to, she could do it. And I think for her, like being able to just be that person for our team, it was everybody else respected that, and we all just we all bought into it. I don't know how else to explain it, but we were all just so bought into our roles and our systems and our culture and the way we wanted this year to go that it was a successful year.
Yeah, definitely. And what's it like playing in those Frozen Four games? And just talk about being a player in that atmosphere, because I've been to one Frozen Four in 2015 when I was in Boston for the men's side. Really cool experience. I had a lot of fun. Probably one of my favorite college hockey games I've ever been to, just because the atmosphere is incredible. You got the pep band, red carpet, and all the fans are really into it. I had a great time. What's it like being a player, though, in that atmosphere? Because you're just getting goosebumps when you're in the tunnel. And then when you're going out for warm-ups, I don't know how you're just not super nervous.
I think of our pep band right away, and they're huge. They bring so much energy, and it's great to hear them in the stands because it's a familiar sound, and that's something we all kind of relied on. Like whether it was them chanting a good thing or a bad thing, it was something we could really feed off of. And then the red carpet itself, like all the nerves on the bus, you're coming up, you pull up and you see all your fans and you're like, wow, look at all these people here to support, not just me, but all the rest of my team, like, and Clarkson itself. So it was great to kind of walk off the red carpet and see all my family, everybody else's family and friends, and kind of give them a high five. And they're all like, oh, good luck, good luck. And you kind of just like, oh, like, thanks. And you get so excited because it's like, I'm here ready to play this game. And then going out for warm up, I always find that's kind of the more nerve wracking part because one, it's the first time you're stepping on the ice for the game. And I mean, warm up's the time to kind of get out those jitters and those nerves. So you kind of get out there, you're whipping around, and if you shoot a puck and you're just like, wow, I'm not shooting very well, you just like kind of like leave it all in warm up. I mean, you kind of get it all out then, and then you're good in the game. Oh, but it was a lot of fun, and I think when you think of the fans in the stands, I mean, hopefully this year maybe it'll be a little. I don't know if they'll be able to have fans, but kind of looking up and you see a bunch of people, it's amazing because just the atmosphere itself, you get so much energy from just a crowd of people. It's kind of crazy to think that not even our fans are giving me energy, but the other team's fans are giving you energy just because it's like a big audience watching you perform.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're going to have fans in this year's Frozen Four, and they're going to do it in a bubble. Last time I heard, so it's going
Okay.
to suck because that makes it much better in my opinion. And I think those players deserve it, especially those seniors who made it that far. I feel like they deserve the chance to be playing in that atmosphere. So I really do feel bad for those players. But when you were heading off the bus, were you overthinking like your walk, all that stuff? Because I feel like I would be, because everyone's watching you. You got the flashing cameras, and then I'll probably be listening to music. That's what I would do. But like, were you nervous at all when doing that, especially your freshman year? When were you overthinking anything at all?
Yeah, I was very nervous my freshman year because we sit at the front of the bus my freshman year. So we were like the first ones off the bus. But I think at Frozen Four, actually, we let our seniors go off first. I really can't remember. But you're going off the bus, and it, like, depending on what type of shoe you were wearing, if you were wearing a heel or a flat, you're kind of like, oh, like if I have a heel on, I really have to think about my next step, like so I don't twist my ankle or like fall over into like people on the side. Yeah, I mean, some people wore sunglasses so that they didn't have to like stare at anybody. A lot of people do have headphones on, just kind of like block out some noise. I didn't wear headphones typically coming off the bus, but I just loved seeing everybody and saying hi. But nerves for sure, walking off to make sure, and we were all like, no, you go first. No, you go first. And it was a lot of fun though. So we all played rock, paper, scissors to see who was going to go first.
Who went first?
I think Katie Beaumier went first for us my freshman year.
Nice. Now let's talk about your sophomore year tournament run. You played Ohio State in the first Frozen Four game, and that was a crazy game because you won that one, 1-0 in overtime. What do you remember from that game? And talk about playing Ohio State because they were very relatively new to the Frozen Four scene. I think that was their first Frozen Four appearance. They had a lot of good players like Tatum Skaggs, Emma Malte, and Danny Sadek. They gave you a really tough game, especially defensively.
Going into that game, I think we had the same mindset, just to be able to play hard, play fast, and within the system. But also for Ohio, like Cassidy Sauve was their goaltender that game, and she's an unreal goaltender. Like she can stop the puck. She's very like flexible and physical to kind of get from one side of the net to the other side very quickly. Um, and I remember in that game when they had scored a goal, and I think me and Sav were both on the ice, and I think they called it goalie interference for no goal. And we were all just like, oh my gosh, we just got scored on. Like I think a little bit of nerves were going a little bit higher just because they had scored the first goal and kind of put us behind, I guess, if you will. Um, but I think once that goal was disallowed, um, we were a little more, we had this, I guess, humbleness or appreciation that this game is not just going to be handed to us. We have to work hard. Like there's no question about it. And then, yeah, I would say that was the biggest thing from the Ohio game.
Yeah, no, especially how do you try to expose, a new team in the Frozen Four? Because you guys had experience, and they obviously they have a lot of great players, but
Mm-hmm.
it's different when you haven't played in a Frozen Four versus when you have played in the Frozen Four. So how did you try to use your team's experience to your advantage in that game?
I think we had a very diverse group of people my sophomore year, just because some people hadn't been to a Frozen Four. My class had been to a Frozen Four and just won. And then the classes above me have also been to a Frozen Four, won, but they've also lost. So the girls who had lost at a Frozen Four before have felt those feelings and those emotions of what it's like when you lose that game. And they did not want that upon us as sophomores or the freshmen that came in for their first Frozen Four. So I think that was the upper hand we kind of had on Ohio. Like we had people who have felt all those emotions before, and obviously no one wants to feel the bad emotions. We only want to feel the good emotions. So I think they were able to kind of reassure us of what it takes to make sure that we don't end up back at that spot or to that point. Yeah, I would say that would be our upper hand on. And I think too, like when going in Ohio versus us, we had, like you said, that experience of being at Frozen Four, but also just in the environment of it, like whether it's bad calls, good calls, no fans, a lot of fans, pep bands, no pep bands, like we've had that experience where I guess we knew what we were expecting kind of going in there, or what we would see out on the ice, like around us rather than just in the game. Yeah, I think that those were our biggest ones.
Yeah, and you played 3 overtime games in that sophomore year tournament. How do you mentally stay prepared during those overtime situations when you're so physically exhausted, especially the game against Colgate when it was your third overtime in like the past 2 weeks?
Overtimes are definitely not ideal. You kind of want to win it within the 3 periods that you play. But I think a big thing obviously was short shifts. Whether the bench was short or whether it wasn't short, short shifts were kind of a good thing because it didn't break you down really quickly. And then I would say the energy on our bench didn't go anywhere. We kind of kept it pretty high, and we found ways to kind of give each other energy by like cheering, or not really physically, but mentally we kind of just supported each other a lot more to kind of push through those times. So
Yeah, and you won back-to-back championships, beating your biggest rivals in Colgate in the final. What emotions were you feeling after that game, and where were you when Elizabeth Shagir went on that breakaway and scored that goal, and do you even remember that moment?
oh, I remember that moment. I think I was on the bench, or I had just come off a change, and I was standing at the bench and we were watching, but like no one was moving on the bench because we were just all intently watching. And then when she scored, we just all lost it on the bench. But playing Colgate, you play them so many times throughout the year, it feels like that you're like, oh my gosh, you have to play these guys one more time. And it's like, okay, then let's make this one time like the last time we're going to play them, even though it is going to be. Let's send a message for next year, or how the rest of the season was, that we weren't just going to like give in after so many times of playing you. Like this one, we're going to make sure we do well in. And then playing Colgate too, you kind of have the they had the upper hand on us, and we had the upper hand of them because we had played each other so many times. You know each other's tendencies or tactics, systems, and all that stuff. So we didn't change a lot of systems and stuff like that based on going into playing them. And I think because we were so good with our systems, we didn't have to. We found ways to kind of get around other people defending it. And then, yeah, I would say that would be yeah, that would be it.
Now, in your junior year, we're going to talk about that tournament. You played Boston College in the first round, and this game was important to some of your seniors that year because BC beat them in the Frozen Four when they were freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
But you then got revenge against them. You beat them in overtime. What was that game like for yourself, and what was it like heading to another Frozen Four your junior year?
Going to my junior year, I didn't expect anything less for Clarkson. We all wanted to go to Frozen Four again because we all wanted to win again. For them to play Boston again, I think was, like you said, it was good for them to kind of get that win and get some revenge on them. Playing Boston, though, I actually ended up hurting my finger the week before playing in the ECAC tournament. So I was a little eerie kind of going into the game just because I couldn't really shoot or I wasn't really handling the puck very well. But thankfully, our trainers and our equipment managers are very creative, and we found ways to kind of make it easier for me to grip my stick and whatnot. But I was really nervous, I would say, that game too, just because we had went into overtime again. And I guess I just had memories of my sophomore year when we had went into several overtimes to end the season. So I think in a sense I was prepared, but we're like, oh my gosh, another overtime, like I have to do this all over again. And then again, like Elizabeth Jaguar came out really big for us and put that puck in the net again. So it was a good feeling because it was a relief, I would say, from the whole season. Like we hadn't been our best all the time. So it was like, we get to do this again. So it was exciting.
Yeah, and you then played Wisconsin in that Frozen Four. What was it like losing that game, especially since for yourself, because you never lost a Frozen Four game up to that point? And what were your emotions after that game?
I was pretty sad after losing that game. You're right, I had never lost a Frozen Four game, and I think it can also be. I mean, I never learned what it felt like or how it felt like to lose, and not that I don't know what it's like losing, but that's a pretty big game to lose, and you don't. And I didn't want to do that again. Like I didn't want to lose again. Playing Wisconsin, though, I feel they wanted a little bit of revenge on us, just from not even sophomore year, but the year before when they had lost us. I think they just came out, no hesitation, and just took it right to us from the drop of the puck. And I feel myself, I was super nervous going into that game. I had like this little memory in the back of my mind, like, oh, I can't lose to these guys. Like we beat them before, I can't let them beat us again. And I think a lot of us are feeling pretty nervous. And I think it got to the point where, and then all of a sudden we just hit this, like, almost it felt like rock bottom where we were in this slump and we couldn't get out. And not that we were blaming anybody but ourselves, because we kind of kicked ourselves in the foot to kind of put us in that spot. But it was pretty heartbreaking because, you go your entire season to play in the Frozen Four, and then you get there, and then this is your one chance to make it onto the finals, and then you don't win. So pretty sad.
Now, heading into your senior season, you were named captain of the team. What did it feel like to receive that honor, and what type of leadership did you want to bring in? Were you more of a vocal or lead by example type of player?
I would say I'm a mix of both. I'm pretty vocal when it comes to things that I value or things that Clarkson hockey values. I want to make sure that all the players are on the same page with that kind of thing, whether it was your work ethic or on and off the ice in school, on the ice for practice or whatever it was. And then lead by example, obviously, is a huge one for me too. There was a lot of young players. We had a huge freshman class my senior year. And I think I took it upon myself to kind of make sure that they felt super welcome. And there was a lot of defense who were freshmen. And I felt I told them all the time, like, don't be afraid to ask me questions if you have any questions. Like, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you guys because this is also my last year. And then being captain, like I was fortunate enough to have Megan Hector and Taylor Turnquist. There's those two, like, you know how, like, not everybody's gonna like you obviously on your team, right? And it's good to have an eclectic mix in the leadership to bring new ideas to the table and kind of deliver things in a different way so that everybody understands it. So I think the three of us like really tried to hound that, and I think there's a big culture shift. I would say we tried to figure out in Clarkson, just kind of getting everybody on the same page, and we couldn't expect our captaincy or our time being captains to go the same as what it was our freshman year or my sophomore year, because we were all different people, right? So I think it was a little bit of a learning curve trying to figure out what's going to work for this team, because what worked for this team wasn't going to be the same as what worked for previous teams. So we enjoyed that challenge, and I think we did a really good job at trying new things or trying to handle things a different way, and it was fun. I think we did a good job, but obviously didn't get to go to a Frozen Four and test it out, but that's okay.
Yeah, but no one else got the opportunity, so it's not like
that's true.
Yeah. But you did play your final game against Princeton. I do want to talk about that. At the time, you didn't realize it was going to be your final college hockey game, but unfortunately, it turned out to be that. What do you remember from that game, and what were your emotions after that game?
I guess like you said, I wasn't thinking this was going to be my last college game, and after that game, I guess I had a bit more drive in me to make sure that we do well against Wisconsin going down when we were playing them, because that had been my second time losing in a big tournament like the ECACs, right? Excuse me. So, and I just remember thinking, like, we didn't put forth our best effort and we could have just won like a championship. So I had said to the girls and we all agreed that, you know what, for the Frozen Four, like we got some work to do, and we have to make sure that we're gonna put our best foot forward and not give them any reason to capitalize on whatever we give them, right? And then when that ended up being our final game for that season, I was more frustrated, not with the team or anybody, but mostly with myself. Like, how did I let that happen, or how did it get to that point? Like, why was that my last game that I had to play in? But I mean, you learn it, you live and you learn, right, from it. And there's a lot of things to obviously take away from it. And I think a lot of girls now who are back at Clarkson, know what it feels like to lose in a big tournament. And hopefully that sticks with them, and they know that feeling, and they don't want that again, so that they do well. So
Yeah, I think what makes it worse in talking to other players is the unknown. Like, I talked to one of the UConn men's hockey players, and they were supposed to play Maine in the Hockey East tournament before the season got shut down. He said, I'd much rather have lost that series than not know what's going to happen in that series. Do you feel the same way? And is the unknown worse than just actually losing in that big situation?
I would agree. I mean, you go out there and you put your best foot forward and you try your best, and whether you win or you lose, you're still happy you get to play hockey, right? Because that's what we love to do as college athletes. So for them to not have that certainty that they're going to play or whatever it is, yeah, I would agree with him. I think it'd be better to lose than not to play at all.
Now, looking back at your time in Clarkson, what's your favorite memory?
Well, besides the Frozen Four championships, I guess my favorite memory would be just like being able to have like housemates. I mean, growing up, I lived at home all the time, and being able to live with teammates is one of my favorite memories throughout my 4 years. I'm trying to think of one specific, like, hockey related.
It could be
Memory?
non-hockey related. I want some
Non-hockey
games. That'd
related.
be fun.
Um, oh, one of my favorite memories is usually when we get there in August and September. We used to go to this. We called it the Bubbler, but it wasn't really. I don't know if that's the correct term from it, but so the Bubbler was this like river, and it was like always there was like rocks value besides like just being at school and on campus. So going to the Bubbler, I would say, is one of my favorite memories of being at Clarkson.
Yeah, and I got to ask you about one of the teammates you got to play with, Lauren Gable. She's obviously one of the
Hmm.
best hockey players. What was it like playing with her in college? And talk about what she was like as a teammate, both on and off the ice, because every time I watch her play, my jaw just goes to the floor. It's insane what she can pull off in the ice. And there's times where it's like, how did she do that? Like, it's just insane.
Yeah. Gibby is a fun player. I mean, on the ice, she works so hard. She is all over the ice, and she tries to, do well for herself and for the rest of the group. Like, she's just very, very committed to that hockey side of things. And then off the ice, she's just so much fun. She has a super light personality, and she's super bubbly and super funny to just be around. And I was actually fortunate enough I was her roommate for my freshman and my junior year. So, I mean, me and Gib are pretty close, and it's a lot of fun. We joke about so many things, and we think about all the good times. And
As a defenseman, is it hard going up against her because she makes some defensemen look silly out there, and I don't know what it was like in practice, but
going against Gib was always a challenge in practice. I mean, she was the one you kind of wanted to go against to see how you do against her. She kept you on your toes for sure. I mean, whether she was pulling the puck through your feet or just beating you wide with her speed, you were like, oh my gosh, like how did I just let that happen? And then, I mean, I'd rather her do it to me in practice than play against her and have her do it to me in a game. So
definitely, definitely. Now we're now in the non-hockey segment of the podcast where I ask you some non-hockey questions. My first one is, what music do you like to listen to before a game or just in general?
I'm a big country fan, but I also like rap music too.
Nice, nice. Who's your go-to country artist or rap artist?
My go-to rap, I really do like 21 Savage, and then my country artist, definitely Shania Twain for sure, and then Brad Paisley.
Nice. Now, what is your favorite TV show?
Oh, my favorite TV show. Currently, I'm watching Schitt's Creek. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it. I've
No.
never seen it before.
It's just like stupid funny. It's just like a filler show to kind of watch. But I also watch The Bachelor and The Bachelorette every Monday. So that's my favorite show too.
Yeah, there's been a lot of drama with The Bachelor this year. What's your thoughts on Matt James, and who do you think is going to win that TV show? I haven't been watching it too much. I will admit, though, I do occasionally keep an eye on The Bachelor here and there. I'm not going to lie, but who do you think is going to win that competition?
When I first watched it, I thought Abigail was gonna win it, because she got the first impression rose, but then he let her go just this past week. I have my money on Michelle or Rachel. I think both of them are really good competitors. I don't know which one yet, but and then Matt, I think he seems like a nice guy. I mean, I don't know him too well, but he seems like he has a lot of fun. So,
Yeah, no, I watched a little bit last year with Pilot Pete since it was during
oh yeah.
Clarkson, and like I like Pilot Pete, but everyone hated him for some reason because he made stupid decisions when it came to the show. But I think he's a cool
Hmm.
person, and I think it'd be
I mean,
awesome to
I
fly
think
on a
me
plane with.
too.
That's a cool date. Like, I'm sorry, like you can't beat
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he had a good season. I didn't think it was. I mean, that show's always filled with drama. So what do you expect? Anything less, right?
No, I'll if I were ever the Bachelor, I would be the worst contestant ever. Well, I wouldn't say contestant worst Bachelor ever because there'll be just no drama on my show. I just wouldn't care. I'll just go with the
Yeah.
flow. But no, I think it'd be cool. I would love to be in the Bachelor one day and just do that
Uh,
thing. That'd be awesome.
that'd be fun.
Now,
Travel the
first,
world, why not, right?
yeah, be the first podcast Bachelor host contestant. I don't know what it's called, like when you're like the actual Bachelor, but no, that'd be cool. I think.
That'd be fun.
Now, speaking of your teammates, who had the best style on the team besides yourself, obviously?
Ooh, best style on the team. Definitely Lauren Leffler or Amanda Titus.
Now, who was the funniest teammate you ever played with?
Corey Jacobson and Lauren Leffler.
Now, final non-hockey question. If you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
mm. Ooh, Christine St. Clair for sure, just to kind of see what it's like on her, like how her journey and stuff. Um, Serena Williams for sure, another huge woman iconic athlete. Um, and then probably someone like from the past, if I were to pick, I always say this one, like Albert Einstein, just to like how is like everything that went on in his brain. I'd love to just have a conversation with him. I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah, no, I would choose probably an athlete since I'm a big sports guy, probably like Tom Brady,
Uh-huh.
just because he went through a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of adversity in his career, and then obviously he's now one of the most successful football players of all time. I think for women's hockey, there's a lot of players I'd love to speak to, and I've had the opportunity to actually talk to some of them, but probably Sarah Nurse or Marie Philpolon, just because they're such talented players, but they also do a lot off the ice as well, so it'd be cool to get their perspective on that.
for sure. Those are two good people to pick.
Now, back to some hockey questions. What should be done to help grow women's hockey?
I think, I guess, to grow women's hockey is just kind of, support your daughter, support your cousin or your friend who wants to do it, and kind of just be their biggest fan out there. I mean, if we get everybody to kind of support like that one person in their life, you'd be amazed at how many people would be done supporting women's hockey or wanting to invest time, money, and energy into women's hockey.
How has women's hockey changed since you started playing as a kid?
I guess I didn't really know women's hockey was really a big thing when I was a kid because I just grew up playing with the boys. But how it's changed, I think there's a lot more awareness now. I think people are just starting to see like how good us women actually are and can be in the game, and I think there's a lot more recognition coming.
Now, what should I do better as an interviewer to improve this podcast and make this platform better?
Honestly, I think you do an amazing job. I think you interview an eclectic mix and a good mix of people that you kind of get the perspective from a lot of different athletes. So I wouldn't say there's anything you would change, but I think you're doing a really good job.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. It means a lot to me. Any shout outs you'd like to give before we let you go to your family members, teammates, friends, anyone in particular? I don't know.
Love to give a shout out to the rest of the Clarkson Golden Knight women's team. Obviously, all my family, my mom, my dad, and my three brothers. Gotta give it to my dogs, King and Rain. And then my special someone, they know who they are, Joshua. And yeah, all the people who support women's hockey and hockey in general. So thank you so
Awesome.
much.
No problem. Thank you so much for coming on, Ella. I wish you all the best with the PWHPA and take care, stay safe. And you're one of my favorite players with Clarkson. So I just want to let you know that it was awesome getting the chance to meet and talk with you.
It was so fun to come on here and kind of share my experience and my things. So thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Take care, stay safe, and I'll let you know when your episode comes out. It should be like a week.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much.
No problem. Take care. Bye.
See ya.